it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my mental health channel, Inside My Holes, where I wipe away the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own struggles, having borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and panic attacks, depression. I talk about my schizophrenic father, my narcissistic mother, my unethical psychologist that sexually abused me, and a plethora of other mental health related topics. But I only come on as a former patient of almost 20 years. I am not a licensed therapist. I do not hold a degree in psychology, so I cannot diagnose you. I cannot offer you a professional opinion. All I ask in return of you is your kindness and respect in the comments. Please be kind to me. Be kind to other people who comment. We don't need to agree on everything, but we do need to agree on showing each other respect and kindness. If you are new to my channel, welcome. Hit that subscribe button in the lower right hand corner. It's 100% free, and that way you will be notified whenever a new video comes out. The lighting here is a little cuckoo. This is like, oh, okay, is that better? Let me sit back a little bit. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. Now, today's video is how do I manage my borderline symptoms? The two biggest symptoms of being a borderline are fear of abandonment and splitting. And what splitting is only seeing things as black or white. So only seeing people as all good or all bad. Like going from hero to zero. So when a borderline splits, there is no gray area at all. What they normally do is they'll like idolize you, put you on a pedestal, and think like, you know, you can do no wrong. And then at the least hurt, the least thing you do that, you know, hurts them or provokes them, then automatically every nice thing they said about you or thought about you turns like turning off a light, okay? Then you become the villain, then they hate you. It's one of these things, I hate you, don't leave me, because of their fear of abandonment, which all stems from the trauma in their childhood, which I had a horrific childhood of being beaten by my narcissistic mother, shamed and belittled, called horrific things, abused and neglected. And my father abandoned me when I was a little girl. He had schizophrenia, so he was delusional. He heard voices. He was in and out of mental hospitals, and he left me with my crazy mother for years. So alone with her, they were separated. So this is how, as a result, I have borderline personality disorder. Now this video with the sun going kind of crazy, I don't have professional lighting. I'm outside, and like, you know, I don't know how to do this so it won't get too, you know, I think that's better. So how do I manage my borderline symptoms of abandonment and splitting? Now let me tell you something. I think I said this maybe in the last video or the one before, I forget. That I'm now a loner. I don't go to therapy. I don't have friends. I haven't been in therapy in 3 years now. I haven't had friends in like, oh God, I don't know, maybe over 5 years. I'd say around 5-ish. And the only people I have in my life are my husband, and I've been married since 1987. I started dating my husband when I was 18 in 1984. And my sons, my son who's severely handicapped, who has traumatic brain injury, he's going to be 29 years old on the 27th of this month. 29, can you believe that? My other son, who lives at home and is working on his master's degree, which he's going to complete in a couple of months, and he works full-time in the mental health care profession. How apropos, right, that I have this, that I'm doing a whole channel on it. He's 26 years old and a half. He will be 27 December 7th of this year. So I have 3 very, very long-term relationships. Now, when I include my sons, I have had best friends who, and I know people too, who I'm friendly with, who have nothing to do with their adult children. Even though, they brought them into this world, they've given birth to them, they have nothing, absolutely no communication, absolutely nothing to do with it. And when I was, before my mother died, I had nothing to do with my mother either. My friend Janice has 2 beautiful grown daughters, and she has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with them. One of them invited her to her wedding, and Janice refused to go. So just because someone has adult children, it doesn't mean that parents are involved at all in their life. So I consider it a big, big plus that I am extremely involved in my children's lives, completely, fully, not just partially. Because my philosophy is, you brought children into the world, that you are responsible for them until death. I don't mean like you have to, give them money or let them sponge off of you, or I'm not trying to say that. It's like an inner thing that you want to be there, you want to help out. I don't mean like, I'm not trying to say you have to, let your children walk all over you, pay their bills, let them live at home scot-free, or it's just a personal thing, I believe, okay? I don't believe that parenthood shuts off when your child's 18. A lot of people do believe that. I don't. But anyway, getting away from the subject. So I have 3 people consistently that have been in my life 25 plus years, okay? So how I manage my borderline symptoms in the last few years, I've had very, very little, maybe next to no borderline symptoms, okay, is that I got rid of the people in my life that triggered my borderline symptoms, okay, of splitting. The biggest person who triggered that was Dr. Richard Geist. Go look at my other videos and you can see. I don't want to explain all the trauma, how he re-traumatized me. But when I got rid of him, he was the #1 person that I split, that triggered my splitting symptom, okay? He was the #1 person that triggered my abandonment symptom, all right? My husband doesn't trigger any of these. Why? Why don't I feel abandoned with my husband? Why don't I splitting with my husband? Because my husband is loving, devoted, loyal, consistent in his loyalty. The people that trigger us borderlines are usually narcissistic people that are not consistent, that breadcrumb us, that ghost us. It's usually we're responding to the way they're acting. That's why we're splitting. That's why we have fear of abandonment. So I would say to you, if you want to manage your borderline symptoms, that you need to be very, very careful who you allow into your life, and make sure that these people don't cause you confusion, Make sure that these people are consistent. Like my best friend, ex-best friend, Holly, she was never consistent. She would cancel plans at the last minute all the time. This is not someone a borderline needs in their life. You need someone who will follow through on everything they say, who will be loyal, faithful, devoted, consistent, who will keep their promise to you, who will do what they say and say what they mean. This is very important. If you have this type of person in your life, and it doesn't just have to be like a lover, okay? You could say to me, well, you're lucky you found a nice guy, but it doesn't have to be a lover or a spouse. It could be one of your siblings, your child. It could be a best friend. It could be, I don't know, a therapist who's ethical. Now, I don't know of one who's ethical, but some people might have found a really good supportive therapist who's consistent and devoted to them. I'm just saying, someone could come back at me and say, well, we're not all that lucky. We don't all have like spouses or, people that are like that in our lives. So what are we going to do? How are we going to manage our borderline symptoms? And I'm telling you, if you get the right kind of therapist, I have never got that. I haven't, but that doesn't mean it isn't possible, all right? It just means it's very difficult to. But since I've been with my husband and also let go of narcissistic people, including psychologists, I've noticed that my borderline symptoms have really almost gone away, all right? I no longer feel abandoned. I no longer split people into like all good or all bad. I don't do that with my sons. My son who lives at home, I have a relationship with him. I don't do that with him. I don't do that with my husband, okay? So those symptoms of my borderline personality really no longer exist because I got rid of the triggers, the narcissistic people in my life, mostly my psychologist and some of my friends who are narcissistic. I let them go. I cut them out of my life. And once I cut them out of my life, I cut out the triggers. Because I think that, here's a good example. The movie Fatal Attraction, Glenn Close, all right? She portrayed a borderline who had an affair with a married man. Can't think of the man's name right now who played her lover in the movie. But this man triggered her borderline symptoms because he played her. He was married, his wife was away. I don't know if she was with family or for a job or whatever. She was away. And while his wife was away, he played around with Glenn Close's character. Just, had a fling, a little fun. And then once the wife came back, oh, sayonara, I don't want nothing to do with you. See, he played with her. Just like the psychologist who has had sex with me played with my feelings, all right? And Dr. Richard Geist played with my feelings too. Let me crawl all over him, touch his penis, sit in his lap, put my hands all look at the other videos. But those two psychologists played me and brought out my borderline symptoms. I became crazy. I became an alcoholic over it. And so my advice to you is to weed out those people, because a lot of us borderlines fall for the wrong type of people. We fall for narcissistic people because of our past. We're repeating our past. We're not even consciously aware that we're repeating our past. But that's what we're doing when we fall prey to narcissists. We are repeating our past. it's not even something consciously that you're aware of. But we're attracted to these type of people because that's all we knew growing up. That's what I knew, and that's if you're borderline. I'm sure you had narcissistic caregivers in your life. You can tell me in the comments. I'd love to have an ongoing conversation with it. Like I said to myself, this one woman from YouTube tried to be friends with me, many months ago. And I always think, why did I like this woman, I really was hurt by her. She hurt me very deeply. I'm not going to go into the story because you can read about the nasty YouTuber. I have videos on everything, so just go through them, and then you'll find out the details of, the video was called Nasty YouTuber or something like that. I talked about in detail about what happened between me and this woman who lived in the Boston area. But later on I examined myself and I said, why was I so hurt by her, Why was I so hurt is because I put all my hopes and feelings into her, and she was narcissistic. She was all wrapped up in herself. And I'm attracted and I attract that type of person. I attract narcissistic people. So before any friendship really developed, I stopped all contact. Outside, you gotta love the lighting and the sound effects. Before anything really began, I ended all contact with her because she was very condescending to me. She was very critical to me. When I visited her, all she did was talk about herself. She was totally wrapped up in herself, self-absorbed. She expected the friendship to be on her terms. You had to go to her, She was never going to come to where you live. If you wanted a friendship, you were the one who had to do all the legwork. Well, I don't have a car. Well, guess what, dear? There's public transportation. She lived in Boston. Public transportation. Right near her. There's Ubers. There's taxis. There's really no excuse today that you can't get around if you live within like 15 minutes of someone, even if you don't drive. My son gets around, and he doesn't have a car or drive, and he gets around and meets his friends. What does that tell you? The person has a relationship solely on their terms because they're narcissistic. And she did trigger my abandonment issues. But, I learned from it. I learned and I did other videos all about narcissists, so you can look into that. And I know I'm attracted to narcissists, and I know as a borderline I attract narcissists. So I'm very, very hyper vigilant about who I allow into my life now. That's why I have no friends. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not lonely. I am lonely, but it's very peaceful. Very, very peaceful. I'm not like completely shut down to ever having a friend again, but I have very, very high standards now. So do I see that actually happening? Not really, because my standards are very high. I'm not going to tolerate all the things that I tolerated before. And as a result, the borderline symptoms have gone away. They say that when borderlines get older, that they no longer have the symptoms, or their borderline goes away. Borderline personality disorder. I would say, I don't think it goes entirely away. I just think that I'm no longer being triggered because I'm no longer allowing narcissistic people into my life. So that's what I would say to you, that I would still always consider myself having borderline personality disorder just because I don't have the symptoms of it. Like you can, like they say once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic, even though you're not drinking, It doesn't change the fact that you are an alcoholic. Or, you can have diabetes but have the symptoms under control. Or anything else like that in life. You can have something but have your symptoms under control. So that's how it does it for me. That's what I do. That's the best advice I can give you. If you look at my other videos about narcissists, so you can, know, before you throw yourself into a relationship, what they look like. Also, they can be very charming. So it might be difficult, but you can tell because someone will be overly charming, you know what I mean? They'll love bomb you. I talked all about this in other videos, what to watch out for. Even when they act all loving and devoted, and that's called love bombing. And if you really have your antennas up and are aware, it's not, they're pretty obvious. So let me know if you're a borderline, someone's a borderline, how are they controlling their symptoms, what's helping them. I told you what helps me, and let's have an ongoing conversation about it. I love to hear I love to read your comments. If you comment, I will comment back to you unless you say something that's not respectful or, something that's really mean. As I told you, I don't tolerate those kind of comments. All right, till next time.